Hey guys, welcome to another engineering lesson. We're continuing our discussion on engineering design. This will actually be the conclusion of the lecture portions of this chapter. And with that, we're talking about design improvement. So, nothing that has ever been created is a perfect design. You should know this because almost every device that you or your parents own is continually being updated. Even when you get the latest technology, the most up to date technology, things are continually improving. You know this for a fact with your phones. About every 2 years, they update the phones to the point where it starts to make the older ones become obsolete. And no matter how much people say that they love their iPhones, it's always improving. The original iPhone that was almost 20 years ago now revolutionized everything. Even going back to just the iPod, I'll take it back to the iPod before the iPhone. Revolutionized what we were doing with our devices and musical instruments, music. And then they improved upon the iPod by basically giving the iPod calling and texting capabilities along with an app store. That was still basically rudimentary. You had to go through iTunes to do everything. But they've improved on that over and over again. There's always room for improvement. No matter how great a design is, no matter how great the technology is functioning, there will always be some inefficiencies. And not just inefficiencies, there will no matter what you create, it will always create new opportunities to do more. So again, just going back to the phone, even before we had the smartphones, we had phones, it was great games on them, until they were able to update what could be done on the phone, as far as, memory. And then we got, more improved gaming, more improved social capabilities. So that improvement also comes from the technology being improved and just being able to do more. Like I said, with keeping up with technology and marketplace demands, that just goes back to, even if you're thinking about COVID, Corona, keeping up with the marketplace demands, technology had to shift just within what we were used to doing this year. Y'all are watching this on either YouTube or on Zoom. Zoom had to step up their capabilities. Schools had to change how they were doing things altogether just to keep up with the marketplace demands. And marketplace literally demanded that we be able to talk to you all via tools like Zoom. And Facebook came out and created rooms. Google came out with their product line to compete with what everybody was doing with on Zooms, because the marketplace came out immediately and said, okay, we have to keep working, we have to keep meeting. How can we do this in an effective way? And if you're looking at that space, even once we go back to school, going back to face, that is going to be something that is going to remain as a part of people's lives forever. Even when we're going back face to face, the fact that everybody became inducted into using software like Zoom for video conferencing, it's going to be just a technology that's going to continue to improve, and people are going to continue using that. Using feedback to improve design. If you've ever left a negative or positive review for anything that you or your parents may have bought, that is what people are using that for. Yes, leaving a review on Amazon can be a warning to other customers of what could happen, but it also comes back to that owner. So if you're leaving something constructive, like even on a Yelp for a restaurant, taking that out of engineering, that restaurant can see, okay, here's where this person had a problem. We can go back and improve our systems so that we never have that issue again. And it came same thing with the design. If somebody is constantly talking about your headphones and how the headphones that you sell keep falling out of your ear, out of their ears when they're riding your bikes. That's, a product idea for how you can make that ear stay, which could go into your marketing. But it also is, we have a problem that's occurring in the marketplace. How do we fix this and address this before we're knocked out of business by a competitor who's going to jump on this and look at our reviews and realize that that's where we're failing? So we've already spoken about reverse engineering earlier this week, but just quickly going over it again, you're going to examine existing products in the marketplace that are almost solving the problem that you're solving. Or if, for instance, like I said, when I was at Schlumberger, if Halliburton was solving a problem and they were the only people that could solve this problem, but it was a problem across multiple oil rigs, well, our company would say, okay, we need to figure out how to ethically reverse engineer that, so that our company can solve those problems as well, so that all that money isn't going to Halliburton. Business is a competition. So what could happen is somebody actually buying one of their tools. This happens all the time, which, they're ethical. And like I said, we go back to the ethical engineering. So I'm gonna talk about the ethical side of, you're buying something and you're taking apart your competitor's product to see what they're doing, how it's working. How can you incorporate that into what you're doing? You go and look up the patents. What are the patents they have on this? How do you adjust so that you don't violate that patent, but you can still solve the problem? On the unethical side, this is done a lot with the knockoffs. So if you ever see like the knockoff products from China, they are reverse engineering a lot of the devices that are already being manufactured out there. And then they go and sell them with, smaller, less efficient components, for a cheaper price. So that's where you end up getting a lot of the knockoff products where it might be some kind of proprietary chip that might be in, an Apple product, but there's another chip that can almost do the same. And that's what they'll use in the knockoff product so that they can still deliver and solve some of that problem at a cheaper price. Engineering notebooks. So we talked about making sure you're keeping up with everything that you're doing as you're going through this engineering design process and being able to work your way back. So the engineering notebook is a written record of all information from that project. And when you're an actual engineer with a company, it's a legal document. You only write in pen so that you don't erase. You don't remove or add any pages. It's graphic paper on the inside, but it's a bound notebook like the composition notebooks that you all use in ELA, so that you can't remove any pages. No pages could ever be missing. And it's fixed, and the reason it's fixed and binding because it's a legal document. So if you're working on something and you want to defend your patent and say, okay, this is when we created it, the engineering notebooks, often the one that's shown right here, but they often have dates at the bottom, so you can date when you were doing something. Right here where it says page left intentionally blank and the big X on it, it's so that no one can ever go back and say, here, just add information aside of your notebook. And it's also a record for when you try to leave the company. So for me, I had my engineering notebooks when I was at Schlumberger, and when I told my boss that I no longer wanted to work there, and returned in my 2 weeks notice, when I left my engineering notebook. So when they hired the next engineer to be a part of the team, he had all of my notes so that the company could keep going. Same thing when I went somewhere else, I was able to get I was able to see the notes that the previous person had left behind at that company. So that's where we're going to stop for today. Go ahead and go do the attendance question and make sure that you answer the assignments that follow.